everyone, welcome to the channel or welcome back. So my name is Katie. If you're new, thanks for stopping by. So today I'm going to be doing my June update for Pan Those Eyeshadows, and I've got to say it's been an interesting month. I have been definitely less into my Quartet than I would have been otherwise, but I've been wearing a lot more neutrals recently. I've had a lot of meetings, workshops, job interviews, that kind of stuff that call for more neutral makeup. So some of these shades have been a little bit neglected, but I'm really looking forward to that changing over the next couple of months. I have hit my usage goal on one shade, so I will be rolling one shade out and getting a new one, which is always exciting. So as a refresher, this is what I've been working on since the last update. So this top shade right here is Rubia from the Melt Mary Jane palette, really nice like cool tone brown. Then we've got Iffy, really nice bright purple from Colourpop's Lilac You a Lot. I've also got Sleepwalk from Melt Cheese and Parties, and Little Frog from Colourpop the Child. It's interesting because I have a couple of Colourpop palettes and none of them made it into this project at all last year, and then all of a sudden we're getting a bunch of them. So I'm glad that they're getting in and getting a little bit more love and a little bit more usage. This color story has also been a lot of fun for me to play around with. Under normal circumstances, this color story is right up my alley. It's got some neutrals, some more muted colors that are definitely what I gravitate towards, as evidenced by today's eyeshadow look. I also got some of my two favorite colors to wear on my eyes, purple and green, which today's look I probably could have incorporated Little Frog, but this is pretty much entirely the Gemini 2 palette, which I have been loving recently, so clearly love a good green. And Iffy was a really nice pop of color. If I'm gonna wear purples, Iffy is quite a bit out of my comfort zone. It's a very blue-based purple, so sometimes those are a little bit more difficult to work with my undertones, but I have been really enjoying playing around with it. It's been a lot of fun to use, and I think I've used it 3 times alone in the last week, if that tells you anything. But anyways, it's been a really fun, balanced color story as far as things go. The random number generator definitely did me pretty well this round, so I'm happy about that. So as always, I like to start off with my least used shade and then go to my most used. So my least used, surprisingly, was Little Frog. And when this palette rolled in, I was really excited because I have really enjoyed the Child palette. I didn't buy it when it first came out. I bought it in the fall on Black Friday, and I really enjoyed it, but I hadn't fully gotten into it. So I was really excited to have this one come in, especially Little Frog, because it is definitely green, but a more muted green, and you can definitely pair it with browns and tone it down, or you can go full greens with some of the other deeper greens in this palette. So definitely excited to have that one in. Having said that, I didn't end up reaching for it as much as I thought I would this month. I only ended up reaching for it 4 times, but I will say I do see a little bit of change on it. When I rolled it in, it looked like it had been maybe used a couple of times, but there wasn't really a whole lot of usage going on there, which was not at all surprising because Colourpop's mattes tend to be pretty firmly pressed in the pan, so they take a while to show usage for my general experience, which is admittedly not a whole lot. Little Frog has graduated from barely looking used to a little bit of a disturbance. I wouldn't quite call it a dip, maybe we'll get there by next month, but definitely a little bit of a disturbance, and you can definitely tell it's been used a little bit more. And I have had fun playing with this the couple of times that I have used it. It's just that this one didn't end up going with me when I went to go visit my parents before graduation, and I've just been really obsessed with the purples in the last like week or so. But I do think that this one will be definitely used a lot more over the coming months, and I'm glad that it's going to be sticking around for a while. So next up, I have the shade Sleepwalk from my Melt Cheese and Parties. This palette was in this project a couple of times last year, so I knew it was only a matter of time before it came back. And so I got the shade Sleepwalk, which is sort of like a muted plummy shade, really pretty. Melt does not play around with pigmentation, so I knew when I rolled this one in that this was going to be more of like a 20 uses and roll out kind of situation rather than actively trying to hit pan. I have actually hit pan in a couple of melt shades in this project. I hit pan in Total Immortal right here as of sometime last year, and that took me quite a few uses, and I already had a dip going on it when I rolled it in, so I know that's not happening with this one. I have used this one 7 times, but I've mainly been using it on small sections of my lid, so using it as to add depth either as part of a halo eye or like the outer third, or running it along my lower lash line rather than doing it as an all over lid shade. I do love a smoky eye, but this one is a little bit too dark for my preferences. Having said that, I have been playing around with mixing it with some of the shimmers from the Lilac You a Lot palette because those are a little bit more subtle and have a couple of them, like Wake Me, have a duochrome effect, so you can kind of put those on top, provides a base which makes that pop a little bit more. I discovered that fairly recently, so I think I'm going to be playing around with that much more over the next like month or so. But yeah, I have really enjoyed having this one in. It doesn't look significantly different from the last update, which I am not at all surprised by. I feel like it looked like I'd been in there a couple of times as of bringing it into this project, and it now looks like maybe there's a slight disturbance, but nothing too crazy. Hopefully we'll get that going a little bit more by the next update, but yeah, I'm not really expecting to get anywhere near pan on this one. I just want to get a little bit more comfortable with using some of these like really dark purples and just figuring out ways to use them that might be a little bit different than how I would normally use them, like I said, like just for adding depth. So I think pairing this with Lilac You a Lot is going to be something that happens quite a bit over the coming months. So speaking of Lilac You a Lot, that brings me to the shade Iffy. And when I rolled this one in, this was the shade that I was the most apprehensive about. I don't love blue-based purples like this on me. Sometimes they can work, sometimes they don't, but I've actually been having a lot of fun playing around with the shade and trying to figure out ways to make it work and ways that I enjoy wearing it. Is it an everyday shade for me? Probably not, but it has been really fun to incorporate. I have been really enjoying reaching into Iffy. I've used it 7 times since the last update. The shade had a little bit of a dent going on when I rolled it into this project, and that has now evolved into a much more more of a focus dip. Generally with this one, I find the best way to apply it and make it work for me, and also just with the primer that I'm using, is to sort of use the pack and blend method. So I've been using a fairly small tapered brush to go in and pick some of this up, pack it on until I'm happy with the color, and then diffuse the edges with the fluffy brush. I've also been using it with a pencil brush on the lower lash line, sometimes to finish off an otherwise purple look, and sometimes in with non-purple looks as well. So that's kind of why I have more of a focus dip happening on this one. I thought I was getting maybe close-ish to pan, but I was watching Danny's update for this project, and she's also working on Iffy, and she definitely has much more of a dip going on than I do. So with that in mind, I think I'm probably a couple months away, but I will say that I'm getting there, and I'm really happy with the progress on this shade. I think out of my Quartet, I think this is the most realistic for me to be able to pan, so I'm looking forward to continuing to work on it. And last but not least, we have my rollout for the month, and that is the shade Rubia from my Melt Mary Jane. So when I rolled this one in, I knew that I was pretty unlikely to hit pan. It took me probably more like 40 to 50 uses to hit pan on Last Caress, and probably similar to hit pan on Luna in the Gemini palette, and both of those are much lighter shades. So when I rolled this one in, because it's more of a medium tone, I knew that I wasn't going to get anywhere close. There's also not a lot of kickback on these. They're pretty firmly pressed in there, and the pans are very deep. When I brought this into this project last month, there was a little bit of usage, a little bit of a dip. I would say it's comparable to where Mari is right now, and now I have definitely much more of a dip going on. It's still fairly shallow, and I know I'm ages away from hitting pan on this one, but I have had fun using it, and it's been a very easy shade to incorporate because I've had a much more neutral leaning month than usual. So it's been very easy to just like throw on the lower lash line, use to add a little bit of depth on the outer third, that kind of stuff. So I was able to hit my 20 uses goal on Rubia, and I will be rolling it out. So because Rubia is going to be rolling out of this project, that means that I get to bring something new in. So I pulled up the Google random number generator. So I'm going to roll between 1 and 135 of my eligible eyeshadows, and we're going to see how this goes. Okay, so I got 85, and I'm actually really excited about this one. I'm going to grab it, and then we're going to talk about what it is. Okay, so I am really excited about this one. So I got number 85, which is one of my Clionadh singles, and it's in the shade Bloodline, which I actually was just using with Iffy like 2 days ago. So it looks like this, and it is this incredible sort of berry multi-chrome, but it's got kind of like a green gold sparkle. I do not know if the camera will pick it up. It does not do it justice, but this is such a gorgeous shade. And I think out of my Clionadh singles that I have, all four of them, I think this is going to be one of the easiest ones to use, and it's, I think, really appropriate for this time of year. This is also a pretty flaky formula, so I would not be surprised if I hit pan on this one in about 20 uses. I have never tried to pan any of these before, but I would not be surprised if I can hit pan on this one. So I am super excited to have that one in. I think this is going to be really fun, and definitely leaning more like pink purple, but I'm not mad about that. I can deal with purples for sure. So that's the new color story. So before I talk about goals and wrap this one up, I did really quickly want to touch on pan percentage and show you some of my bonus pans from this month. So as of the last update, I was at a pan percentage of 15.2%, so I'd hit 27 pans out of 177 total. I have purchased a couple of palettes, but I have managed to finish up a bunch of shades, so because of that, my pan percentage has dropped pretty significantly, which I knew it was going to, and I'm not mad about that at all. I was expecting to finish off about 3 shades as of the last update, and I actually managed to finish up 4, and I'm a couple, probably like a few weeks away from finishing up another one, so I expect that this will drop further by the next update. So my pan percentage right now is 12.1%, so I've hit 22 pans out of 182 total, so a little bit of a dip, but because they're finished shadows, that's why I don't put too much stock in this number, but I just like to keep track of it just to kind of like see where I am and get a metric for my usage. So having said that, I actually have bonus pans this month that are not in my Pan That palette, which it's been quite a few months since I've been able to say that. They're actually not that exciting. The first one that I have is I finished one of my like default lid setting shades. So I finished the shade Bear from my ABH Curly Bible palette. I was reaching into that pretty often just to sort of set my crease area. It means that my eyeshadow doesn't apply quite as smoothly, but it also means that it doesn't crease as fast. So for me, I'm willing to work a little bit harder to blend, but not have my eyeshadow crease in like 4 hours. So that's a trade-off. But anyway, so I finished up Bear a couple of weeks ago. And then I also finished up a couple of shades from my Norvina palette. So the first shade that I finished up was Base right here. This was also just like a basic cream shade, and that has been one of my default shades for setting my lid. I'd been using both Bear and Base for a while. I fully expected to have Base finished. Bear was a surprise. And then I also managed to finish up Dreamer, which was sort of a pink champagne color. Once I noticed the pan started to corrode, I was just kind of like, you know what, I would like to finish this one up. So I did. It definitely took a while. I've been unofficially working on it for quite some time now, but I did manage to finally finish that one up, so I'm happy about that. And those are my bonus pans. I also finished up a shade in my Pan That palette and then decluttered one, so obviously the pan percentage dropped a little bit. So anyway, that's where I am this month. I do expect this to drop a little bit more over the coming month, just because I know I'm pretty close to finishing up one more shade in my Pan That palette, but hopefully that'll be sort of the lowest we go, and hopefully I'll be able to bring this one up a little bit by the end of the year. But yeah, that's where I am for right now. 12.1, 3% drop since the last update, which I fully expect expect it to happen. I would really like to keep it above 10%. I don't really want to go below that at this point, but hopefully I'll be able to hit some new pans and bring it up a little bit by the end of the year. So in terms of goals and what I want to do for the next update, I think my main focus shade is going to be on Iffy for a couple of reasons. One, I've just really been enjoying working on it, but also because I think I mentioned I'm starting a new job in a couple of weeks, and not only is that going to bring some much more early mornings, especially if I want to run before work, it's also just like a little bit more of an office environment, a little bit more professional. And so as somebody who is low on the totem pole and trying to make a good impression, I think Iffy is going to be the most difficult shade to work into my weekday rotation. So I think once I start working, Iffy's probably going to be relegated to weekend playtime, at least until I get a little bit more settled in. So I'd like to prioritize it and use it as much as I can. I'm not going to try to get it rolled out by the next update. I think trying to use it 13 times between now and then is pushing it a little bit, but I do want to get to a point where I've used it at least 15 times so that I'm much closer to rolling it out. Or hit pan, you never know, we'll see how that goes. And for the rest of them, I think Bloodline, I don't want to push myself to pan that one immediately, but I do think that it will be fairly easy to pan. It does have a little bit of a dip going on in it right now, as I think you guys can see. So it definitely has been used, and it's a more flaky formula compared to the other two jeweled multi-chromes that I have, which are a little bit more firmly pressed. So I think possibly hitting pan on this one by the next update is not outside the realm of possibility. We will see. I'm not going to push it too hard, but I'm definitely going to be reaching for it. Even though it is really sparkly and shifty, I think that I probably can make that work throughout the work week. So I think I'll have some fun with that. And then everything else, I just want to continue sort of working on them. I want to get like 5 or so more uses out of Little Frog and Sleepwalk. Both of those are muted enough that I think that I can definitely incorporate them in my weekday looks. I don't know if I'll have anything to roll out by the next update. We will see how that goes. So that is everything that I have for this update. Thanks so much if you're still here. If you enjoyed my content and you haven't already subscribed, you want to see more of my face, feel free to hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like. And as always, if you're doing this project, feel free to let me know down below what you're working on this month and how it's going for you, as well as any suggestions of looks that I can do. So that is pretty much everything that I have for today, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!